Well, hello. It's George Santos. Yes, yours truly. This is the first ever Pants on Fire with George Santos.
Liar, pants on fire. Liar, pants on fire.
Last time I saw you guys was definitely the hardest day of my life. Taking a plea deal in federal court was never on my bingo card, ever in my life. And I thought, what do I do next? And it took me a while to figure that out. And here we are in an amazing collaboration, which is going to be Pants on Fire with George Santos. So, we scoured high and low, and I needed a co-host. And I mean, sometimes you just got to settle in life, and you don't win everything. But we got Naja Hall.
Oh my God. That's a hell of an introduction.
Hi, Naja.
You son of a... We're starting off like this. We're doing this.
I mean, girl, it's not like I went into a catalog and I went through all the pages and I want this one. Like, you were the one I got.
And I got a lot of flack, to be straight up. I got a lot of flack when I was telling the people in my circle.
Karma's a bitch.
I was telling the people in my circle, like, when I got the call, it's like, hey, there's this guy, George Santos. George Santos? You mean the guy that lied about, he had a master's degree, but he really has a GED? He says he's Jewish, but he's effing not. Z-Way, Dr. Phil just ate his ass to pieces. He's a Trump supporter, Naja. You're going on there with him? And I had to rationalize and explain away my reasoning for sitting here with you. So I still can't tell you that right now. I guess I needed a job. We'll see how it goes.
You know what's the crazy part? I'm going to have to explain to people why is my co-host a lib. But you know what?
I won't be classified. How about that?
You're a lib.
I won't
Girl,
be classified.
you're a lib.
So I'm here to
Tell
keep
me
you
you're
straight.
a Kamala supporter
I'm
without
here to
telling
keep
you you're
him
a Kamala
straight.
supporter.
Well, as straight as he could be.
Excuse
I'm here
you.
To keep
you wouldn't know straight
order.
if they hit you in the face.
I'm his bucket of water as his pants are on fire, and I hope I don't have to use my water a lot.
You know what? I wouldn't mind getting wet by you. But I will say this. Look, Naja, all kidding aside, kidding-ish, I know we're definitely not going to be agreeing on a lot of things. We totally have different worldviews and how
experiences. I'm so intrigued by the level of audacity that you have.
Yeah, with a GED, as you just pointed out.
I am curious, though, George. What are you hoping to get out of this? Do you want to clear up anything? What are you hoping to set the record straight on?
It's more of a reclaiming my time, reclaiming my voice. Let me tell you and everyone at home, prior to George Santos, the liar that has now stuck and I have to find my way out of that, I was actually known for being blunt, brutally honest, and sometimes offensive because I never really pulled punches. I am more than a tabloid. I am a whole human being. I'm not perfect. I think I've made that very clear. I look forward to, accountability, but I also want folks to understand that I'm a human being and call it my mea culpa, but it's about really connecting with the audience.
Yeah.
But let us not forget, we also have our trusted producer, Barone.
Thanks for having me.
Barone, I look very much forward to every single week doing this here with you. So thank you for being here, Barone. And if you want to give us a little blurb about you, we'll go there.
I'm just happy to be along for the ride and see what develops.
So just full disclosure, folks, I took Barone out of porn. He used to produce porn, and I said, just come produce my podcast.
Oh, God.
That is a lie.
A porn pro.
That is a
Barone is
lie.
going to be our fact checker, our voice of reason, because working with George Santos, you kind of do need somebody to Google the facts.
In our world of Pants on Fire, I'm going to do our best to keep us honest.
Keep us
Let's
honest.
stay honest, right?
So tell us about who's coming on.
Oh, go big or go home.
Yeah.
Right? So I decided to go big. You heard of Cameo?
Absolutely, I've heard of Cameo.
Essentially, it's an app, and your talent, anyone that there's talent, which you have some level of notoriety, and you go and you put a price for whatever your videos are. I mean, there have been severely like big name A-listers on there. Like you can book Bethany Frankel on Cameo.
Would we call her A-lister?
She's an A in my life.
Bring her on the show then. So we can ask her.
I am dying to bring Bethany on the show.
Bethany, girl, bring us some of that
skinny girl cocktails.
Bring us some skinny girl, Bethany. I hear you got a lot to say, Bethany. Come on up here, girl.
I love Bethany Frankel. Like my favorite housewife, bar none. And then a second close there would be like Ramona Singer. But anyway, I digress.
You have a different bar than me.
Have you heard of George Santos and Cameo?
I saw it on page 6, I believe.
I decided we have to invite the CEO and creator, Steven Galanis.
Gosh.
And you know what? It's going to help a lot because a lot of people have a lot of opinions about he didn't make that money. That's not true. No human being can record 700-800 videos.
George, I was one of those people. I was like, I think I saw some numbers between 400,000, 700,000, 900,000 in like 30 days. And
$400,000 in 28 days. And our first guest is Steven Galanis.
Come on in here, Steve.
Let's do this. All right, Steven, welcome to Pants on Fire, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So far, my pants are not on fire yet,
we'll get them on fire.
We'll see.
Anyway, so I thought it would be super fun to have you because I've become nationally married to Cameo. When I tell the story, people, he's lying, it's not true. So I want to get this right off the bat. Gross revenue for George Santos in the first 28 days in Cameo was $400,000.
That is true.
Thank you.
And
I had to get him to say it because I'm so done.
That's true, because he would have access to the numbers.
And by the way, we don't disclose talent earnings unless the talent want to. So, but I can confirm that. And on top of that, I can also confirm that George broke the record for biggest first day of all time, which was previously held by Bon Jovi. He broke the record for biggest first week of all time, which was previously held by Sarah Jessica Parker when she came on to raise money for New York City Ballet. And most impressively, he broke the record for biggest first month of all time, which was Carol Baskin at the heart of Tiger King COVID. So to say that George Santos on Cameo was anything short of a revelation would be disingenuous.
You came and blew it out the water.
Dude, I tell people
first
this.
month, first 28 days, how much?
400 gross.
400 gross.
Yeah, gross revenue was $400,000 in 28 days. So when I went to national media, I said, I've done my congressional salary twice over and then some.
And it was in the first, like he did that in like the first 3 days. It was basically like 3 days on Cameo. It was like 2 years in Congress.
Because it sounds like he came in with a bang.
Yeah.
Well,
you hit it hard with a bang, and then because I read somewhere it's like over $1 million that you've made on that platform.
Well, I didn't make. Gross is, I think it's inching close to that.
We really have 4 main seasonal periods for our business. It's Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and then our Super Bowl is Christmas. Basically from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Christmas Eve is our biggest day of the year, by the way.
Okay.
But from Thanksgiving, basically Black Wednesday, Black Friday, like we start kind of Thanksgiving Day sales all the way through Christmas Day. We do about 25% of our year. So
that's
it's really so part of why George worked was the timing was it was just like the perfect storm.
The right time to go viral.
He was going viral at a time where there's already a ton of there's already a ton of attention on the platform. And it's in the whole long history, like Cameo's 8 years old. Every year we kind of have like a December surprise. And December 7th, 2023 last year, waking up in the morning and seeing not only that George had joined, because then at first we see that he joined. So then our team is like, okay, we got to make sure it's like actually him. There's verification, so you can't actually like you couldn't join and say you were George. Like you have to we take your ID. There's a lot of verification that goes on,
and a little video they make you do too,
and videos. And because of what we do, because it's video, it's harder to fake video than it is to fake like I'm somebody else on Twitter, or I'm somebody else on some other
Oh,
platform.
you
So
don't
you
get paid
verify-
until the video's completed anyway. So
right.
you can set up a profile and say you're Beyonce.
Yeah.
You're not going to see a red cent until
yeah.
that video
Right.
gets sent.
Okay,
So
okay.
Historically, there have been 3 ways people can join the platform. So the first is, let's say you're going viral. My team would reach out to you or get your agent or your PR person and say, hey, I think like you're having a moment. You'd be great on Cameo right now. Secondly, if you're on the platform, you can refer anybody in your network to join the platform. So you could be, hey, I've got my friend George. I think George would be a great fit for Cameo. Your referral code would be kind of a golden ticket for him to like get on the platform without having to talk to us. And then the third way historically was people could just apply to the platform. And our policy back in the day until last Mother's Day was that you had to have like 25,000 followers on Instagram or TikTok.
Some sort of social
But at the end of the
metrics.
day, there were still individual humans that were hitting yes or no, right? So it became a judgment call. And one of the things that we looked at was from basically from the start of COVID till Mother's Day last year, there were over 120,000 people that had applied to join the platform that we hadn't said yes or no to. They were just kind of in limbo. Because it's like Soho House. You're never saying no.
Right.
It's just like you apply and then you don't hear back if you're not getting in. So when we looked back at the data, there were hundreds, if not thousands of people that would have ended up being big on the platform because maybe they were a YouTuber that hadn't gone viral yet, or they're a rapper who hadn't
But they were
really
in
blown up
limbo.
on SoundCloud, or they were a member of the Screen Actors Guild that was going to be on a show on Netflix in like a year, but they hadn't popped yet, or they're a minor league baseball player that's now on the Yankees.
So you had to find a better vetting system.
Yeah,
to
so
get these people.
basically what we decided to do quietly, and this isn't even something that we've like fully announced yet, but we did this quietly, and you'll be hearing more about this later
We
this
got an
year.
exclusive.
Is we opened the platform up, and now anyone in the world can actually join Cameo. And the thinking of doing that was like anyone in the world can join TikTok, anyone in the world can join Snapchat or Instagram or YouTube or any of OnlyFans or any of the other platforms. So the main reason we didn't do it earlier was because we wanted to make sure that like our consumers could find the people that they're looking for.
Right.
Our marketplace is always a reflection of pop culture, and it's really important to our marketplace that we're a big tent and that everybody has a place there. We have 3 rules on Cameo: no hate speech, no inciting violence, and no nudity. And I only care what you do on our platform.
Okay.
We are not the judge, jury, and executioner of what you do anywhere else. And ultimately, we're paid speech, not free speech. So we've taken a very hardline approach on that. But, of course, when you're a bigger company and you have, a lot of like, we had people kind of all over the world, like on the front lines, but pretty junior people that were making these judgment calls. So we decided to get rid of that policy. And
So how does that-
George was really, the perfect example of this, because what he did was he came on the website, he enrolled, open enrollment, which again, we hadn't like announced. He put it, I think you put it in your Twitter bio right away.
Yeah.
And it being on his bio, like gave people immediate credibility that this was real,
Right.
just from like, because it's coming from
Wait, how
him
many
as the direct
days
source.
until you started getting hits?
I
and
woke up the
requests?
next day. I had over
But
100.
it was immediate. And I remember getting calls like at 7 a.m. from like TMZ and Politico and like all these
George
publications. New York
Santos.
Post are just
Yeah.
like
Page 6 went nuts.
Did George and at this point, like I hadn't gotten in contact with George yet, and then I ended up coming to New York that day. I remember
Yeah.
we had lunch.
Yeah.
Up-
Beach Cafe.
Yeah, Beach Cafe. we had this like huge lunch, and George said something to me that I'll never forget. The very first, I don't even know if you remember this, but the very first thing George said to me when I walked into Beach Cafe was, he goes, "Well, Steven, I guess it's pretty safe to say I'm not going to get an MD job at a private equity firm anytime soon. So it's time to become a millionaire on Cameo."
Right?
That's true.
Our most booked person in the world from a dollars perspective is Brian Baumgartner from The Office, Kevin Malone from The Office. Okay.
He's number one every month.
by
I
the way-
only beat him
by the way,
twice.
We have pretty much everybody from The Office on Cameo or has joined. and it's not that he has the biggest social following. It's not, but his videos are just better. Like he just makes incredible content. And you saw that right away with George. Like, obviously he was in the zeitgeist. Obviously everything that was, I think back to this time last
Timing
year.
was perfect,
The
too.
timing was perfect. But if the videos weren't amazing, it only would have been, it would not have done this. It would have done that.
So how is George doing on the platform now?
Well, look.
No, that's for him.
Oh, okay, I was just
because
gonna
does he
say.
have permission to share numbers?
Oh,
Kind of.
I don't think the numbers are ever going to compare to last year. I think on a conservative tone, I think this year so far gross, I think it's been like 300K or something like that. I take a third of that. With
Okay.
Still, he's still doing very well.
Yeah.
And by the way, what we tend to see is people when they first join that, they make
The rush.
Like that's the biggest rush, especially if you join during the zeitgeist. I'll give you another story, like from this enrollment perspective. About a year ago, after we did this open enrollment, that woman Jules, who was the very cutesy, very demure, like that big video, she joined the platform. She hadn't blown up yet. She got booked twice before this August. That video comes out. It's kind of the biggest thing in the world for 3-4 weeks. And suddenly she's getting booked.
That was a perfect time.
She's getting
to do it.
booked like over 1,000 times in a week.
Okay.
Right. So, and that was to the point where she had, because that, like the way TikTok works or the way virality works right now, like the peak to trough of fame has never been more severe. Like when you are in the moment right now, and you look at Hawk Tua, for example, Haley
Hot two on that thing.
Haley has the third biggest podcast in the world right now, behind Joe Rogan and
Because of that one TikTok moment.
Cooper, right? Like it's incredible, right? This was somebody that was literally just, making one of those, like a million people, just on the street of Nashville and like out and said one line that catapulted her.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think is very cool about the fact that, fame can rise exponentially way quicker than ever before.
We can associate pricing with ego, I guess.
Oh,
Or-
well, there's definitely
So
ego, but
one's
time.
own
by the way, I
perceived social value.
don't say it's ego. I actually say it's willingness.
Well, it's
right?
it's value add. It's almost like a value add tax, right? Look, time is a commodity we can't all disperse freely,
Right.
And time is money.
And some people
So for
feel
me,
that their time is more valuable, though.
Well, let me put it this way. I did pass up, especially in December, I passed up a lot of opportunities for revenue because I was married to, when I did the math, I was like, I need to do at least 75 videos a day.
He also, I remember, like you were probably 2 or 3 days into knocking him out.
I was
And
crying.
I remember
You were
George
exhausted.
called me crying. And he said,
I was crying.
He said, I'm literally going to the store. I have to get a tripod because my elbow's hurting
Yeah,
so much.
like, it was
my
so bad.
elbow's
Yeah,
hurting
no,
so
like,
much.
I'm crying. I'm making so much money.
From making all the videos. But hey, no pain, no gain.
The
Exactly.
commitment, but Naja, the commitment is like first of all, I did reject over.
So much money. My
No.
arm hurts.
I did look. A lot of people say I'll do anything for money. I'll show you the app. I did reject hundreds.
Yeah.
I rejected hundreds of videos.
And
which
you have that you can prove
Well,
that
yeah,
he rejected.
He can
I
prove
can
it on
pull-
the-
you know what, I'll
here's-
pull up the app.
Here's the other thing that's interesting. So as we wanted to think about, like, how do we make this marketplace work? Because
That's
when
all declines.
Cameo first
You declined
started,
$350, $350.
Yeah,
I'm like,
280, 350.
Yeah.
Like I declined it regularly. For me, it was like no sweat off my back to decline.
And
all
just
of
to
this.
put in perspective, like platform wide, something like
Thousands of dollars.
something like 5% of videos get declined, and
they were just mean spirited
by the way,
things. That I
can
declined,
be
by
a
the way.
variety.
Oh, okay,
can be a
well, yeah.
variety of reasons. If a Green Bay Packers fan books a Bears player to say, "Hey, say the Bears suck and the Packers are awesome," like
Yeah.
he's gonna say no. Sometimes it might be weird. It just might be a weird request where you're like, you feel like, hey, they're trying.
There were
to
a lot of sexual innuendos there.
maybe
That I was
maybe
like,
it's
I'm not doing
maybe
that.
it's
Okay,
a
that
sexual
makes sense.
innuendo,
And
or
there was a
maybe
lot
it's-
of the Palestine Israel. I chose
or
electively to stay
right,
out
right.
of.
There- and that happens sometimes, right? Like, look, we're a marketplace of humans,
and people will
you know,
pay for that. Okay.
but one of the things that's, I think, has really helped our platform be a very safe one is 3 things. Number one, price is a necessary friction which enables fulfillment. You literally have to put your credit card in to like buy a Cameo. So you can't just like on Twitter, or X, you can make a new account and you're behind and nobody knows who it is and you just tweet shit out. And if it gets deleted, you go create another one. But if like we block your credit card and like people aren't going to go like pull out another. So that helps, number one. Number two, we have filters on our side that look for hate speech or look for sexual content, and we can flag requests as soon as they come in, often before the talent even see them. And we might say like, hey, like look out for this one, or we think this is weird, or we know that this person's been a bad actor that's been blocked a lot. And then third, George or the talent that get booked, they actually get to read the request and they say yes or no. Like if you look at our incident rate of like
you said, it's hate speech
of bad content versus TikTok or Twitter or Instagram, it's not even
so
close.
Glad you said that about incident rates, because Georgie. So I was Googling when we realized that he was going to come on, and we have to talk about the incident.
Of course, yeah.
We got to talk about the incident. I don't want to know. You guys know, where I'm leading with this, right?
Go for it.
So some people had you to read some stuff. For people that don't know, I'll go ahead and say it. And if I don't have the acronym right, just please correct me. National Association for Men Who Love Boys? No.
Men Boy Lovers or something like that.
National Association for Men Boy Lovers.
Yeah, whatever.
I saw that.
I didn't know what Nambla was. And by the way, it was framed to me as the name of a person.
Yeah.
Right? Can you wish Nambla a happy anniversary?
Damn.
Nambla to me sounded like an ethnic name.
Naja.
Like my point. So it was like, oh, wish Nambla a happy anniversary on their whatever anniversary.
Yeah.
And I did it like, so proud of you. Good job. Good work. I didn't know. And by the way, it wasn't all caps. It was capital. And I have the screenshot of that request out there from Michael Picard or whatever. He's an absolutely ghastly looking troll, by the way. Like, I feel bad for the kid. He has dark circles on his dark circles.
And it's not a real thing, right?
You
Nambla's
make
not a real
this Cameo, and then what happened?
Oh my God, George Santos endorses pedophiles, essentially.
There is a nambla.org that I can click on.
No, it's actually disturbing.
I was like, oh, someone's trolling George. He just didn't know.
You're talking about Nambla.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was like, somebody's trolling you.
Troll.
And I was like, you could tell you just didn't know.
Right.
That's fine.
I was laughing like, Nambla girl, you work. Like,
which was what made it so
gendered
Nambla. Which is what made it so colorful.
Misgendered, right?
And I got to laugh out of it. But then Jimmy Kimmel did a whole segment. So Jimmy Kimmel reached out to you, the show. He sent representatives to your Cameo account under false pretenses to get you
and aliases.
So there was no way that you would have known that it was his producers, his staff, like people that he paid and hired, because they paid for these videos.
Yeah, they did. Well, he alleges he did it himself.
He admitted that?
Oh, on TV. Like, I went on Cameo with a few aliases.
Okay, so he created these aliases to get you to say things. And listen, you're going down this huge list. You have hundreds. I don't even know what a furry is. So, number one, can you talk about when you got these requests? And then what the hell is a furry for those of us that are not in the furry community?
So, I still don't know how to explain what a furry is, although my attorneys...
What's a furry? Somebody give us a definition.
So I remember there was a famous Entourage episode, right, where Turtle was like trying to sleep with this girl and he like was going to do whatever it took. And she was into furries, which was like they wear a mascot costume, basically. Like imagine
they live their lives as animals, right? Is that a good definition?
It's people who enjoy anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah.
People who dress in more or less.
Yeah, so like in this Entourage episode, Turtle was like in a bunny costume.
Because I think he was trying to get with the girl.
It's essentially mascot costumes, you know?
So you believe that you're...
Oh, no, look.
They believe that they're actually these things, or they just enjoy...
It's a fantasy.
It's a fantasy, and there's a lot of sexual...
It's like a cosplay.
Yeah, it's a cosplay. Thing. There's a lot of sexual...
So what does a furry have to do with Kimmel?
Content?
One of the videos mentions somebody being allowed to go to work as a furry, which look, we live in Woketopia now. I would not put it past.
I hate that people have turned the word woke and gentrified it. because I really think that's the stupidest shit ever.
Okay, but don't shoot me. Shoot whoever did that. To
We
it, right?
all know who did it.
Whatever.
You gentrify words, and
Anyway.
that's not what woke means.
Oh, I
but go
get
on.
it. But in this context, we live in Woketopia, right? And I'm like, okay, it's not unexpected that a company says, hey, you can show up as your furry persona and do your thing. I'm like, talk your shit, live your life. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to congratulate this person. Now, had I known that that was going to be broadcasted for the entire world to see and Jimmy Kimmel was going to make complete ridiculous fun of me, first of all, he's not even funny. He has to manufacture funny moments. Second of all, I would have still said yes had he paid me to do that. Like, hey, George, you want to be part?
He paid
no,
for the
he didn't pay
cameos.
me. He did not pay me he evaded the licensing agreement. He evaded copyright laws. He did.
Okay.
Based on what he agreed to. In respect to the process, we're still in appellate court right now. So I think it's smart, and I'm sorry for everyone listening. I think it's smart, to not put Steven in that position, nor my attorneys for us to comment on it. But yeah, now, Kimmel had some fun at my expense, but I think I'm going to get the last laugh on that. So
but you guys already went to court for that.
We're in court actively.
I thought you already had a court date and
we're
was
in
done.
appeals process. No.
You appealed it. So the first time it didn't work. The judge was like,
the judge looked at it as fair use, and I think she grotesquely missed the mark. Okay. And that's why we're bringing it to the appellate panel with a very explicit reason why it's not fair use.
Yeah, one other
something else came up on Google.
What? You got to read it.
That's because of
it says on the same day that George
on the same day that I pleaded guilty
to federal crimes, he also lost a lawsuit against Jimmy Kimmel. Damn, you had a messed up day.
It was a bad day.
You get your ass whipped that day, boy.
You know what, Naja? Whatever.
Oh my God.
But I'm gonna pivot now because I'm so done with Jimmy Kimmel. Pivot.
But can I ask a furry question? If you were gonna be a furry, like what furry would you be?
You know what?
Okay, we can pivot.
No, we're done.
I want somebody to tell me. Can you tell me what furry?
What furry would you be?
You don't exactly still understand what a furry is.
I'd be a big, fat pussycat.
Now we can. Okay, I'm cool with pivoting.
Okay.
Real quick, just for clarity before we pivot. So what I'm finding on the internet is that there's a lot of furry mixed with gender identity. Meaning like people who refer to themselves as furries, typically a non-binary person who also identifies strongly with a non-human creature. They express this outwardly in costume.
Oh yeah, like just so you understand.
I'm a peacock.
Let me explain this to you.
I'm a peacock furry.
Is it
sexual? Wait,
most times it does tend to be sexual.
Well,
so I don't think specifically. No.
I'm just gonna say this. I had to congratulate somebody on being able to live their full fantasy of a beaverpuss, which is a beaver and a platypus mix.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, and its sound was yiff yiff yiff.
No,
literally, yeah. So anyway, let me move on. Where does the idea come from? Were you just like twiddling your thumbs at home, like, what do I do to do something new? Like, because social media platforms are not easy to be unique anymore, right? Because how many different Facebook versions can there be, or how many different versions to Twitter can there be, or Instagram? Like, they don't even work. 9 out of 10 times, they all fail.
Well, the big thing is it's not that hard to start, but it's hard to make it work and have staying power. And, like, again, we just celebrated 8 years from the idea. And we had the idea for Cameo, the last place you think you're going to have your $1 billion idea. We had it at my grandmother's funeral, of all places. And
please tell me how that comes
as a backstory, my uncle and my co-founder Martin and a bunch of people in my family had worked in the film industry. Mm-hmm. My uncle produced movies like Rambo and Conan and Lone Survivor, and most recently, like The Irishman might be one that you guys all saw on Netflix, but he's done a couple hundred movies over the years. Mm-hmm. And, it was his mom and my mom's mom that passed away, and we were super, super close. So my uncle and a bunch of these guys flew in from LA for the day for my grandmother's funeral. And Martin and I had been doing film production back in the day. And then when Netflix kind of in like 2017 changed the model of not really paying residuals out anymore, the part of the film industry that Martin and I were doing the math didn't work anymore. So I went to go work at LinkedIn, at that point. And I was an options trader when I'd started doing this.
One thing about you is you can pivot.
And
I love
then Martin ended up becoming an NFL agent. And he had this big idea that if he could sign a big defensive lineman that looked like a superhero, maybe he could backdoor into signing the next Jason Momoa or the next Rock and have the next Conan or the next Rambo be somebody that he sourced personally. So he signs this guy named Cassius Marsh. Cassius was a, mid-round draft pick of the Seattle Seahawks, backup defensive end. He's a rookie. And if you know anything about NFL agency, they make like 2 to 3% of the contract, but for younger players, like these are not guaranteed contracts. Like they're one ACL tear, one, concussion away from never playing again. And where agents make their money is on off the field income. They can make anywhere from 10 to 20% basically of like any deals they bring off platform. But the problem in sports is that the top 1% of athletes make 99% of the endorsement revenue. Like Nike's not going to give a deal to like the bench player on the New York Knicks. Like they want to work with the best player on the Knicks. So Martin ends up like being really frustrated because he's spending all this money, like flying to see his client in Seattle. He's paying for his personal training and like all the stuff that agents do to make sure that their person performs. And he's losing his shirt on this so far because these are longer term investments. And I end up picking him up from the funeral, and I was just driving him. We went to go get a drink at Trump Tower downtown, and then we were coming right back to O'Hare. Like he came in for the day. And while we were stuck in traffic, he pulls out his phone and he shows me a video that today we call the first Cameo. And in it, this guy, Cassius Marsh, this player, is congratulating his friend Brandon, who at the time was working in Nike's marketing department, like working with some of the biggest athletes in the world, LeBron, Michael Jordan, Kyrie. But he's from Seattle. He loves the Seahawks. He had just had his first son. And Martin got Cassius to record a video. And he goes, "Hey, Brandon, it's Cassius Marsh from the Seahawks. Heard about your son, Maverick. If he gets your athletic ability, I know he's going to be playing for the Seahawks one day. Go Hawks." And in this video, he's driving. He's got no shirt on. He's got a flat-brimmed Seahawks hat. He's all tatted up. It's just like very aesthetically interesting. And I just saw that right away. And then Martin's like, here's the craziest thing. He's like, that guy who named his kid Maverick after Mav Carter, like who's LeBron's like best friend, because like they know each other. He's like, he took that video and put it on Instagram and said it was the best thing he'd ever gotten. And that was a really big surprise.
So it came from an idea of just like somebody sending a regular video.
Yeah. So he had
You're like, oh, we can monetize that.
And immediately I'm like, Martin. And like Martin's like in the car lamenting how he can't get this guy any off the field dollars. I'm like, and the eureka moment right away. I'm like, Martin, we should sell those.
And he's probably like, what?
So then I drop him off at O'Hare. The second he gets through security, he calls me. He then is like, get to LA tomorrow. So I take the first flight to LA. He picks me up. We go to Soho House in West Hollywood. We start slamming picantes and like we're dreaming up this marketplace.
You're in West Hollywood getting drunk. That's dangerous for a straight man.
We
blushed.
Hey, for whatever reason, George, I never get hit on by a gay dude. So
really,
I guess I'm not their type.
Oh, that's too bad.
Anyways, I will tell you that we're sitting there dreaming up the marketplace that's going to become Cameo. And the core idea was, hey, as a fan, wouldn't it be cool if for X amount of money you could pay to do Y
your
activity
favorite person
with Z person, right?
Yes.
And there's a host of different Y activities that you could do. The personalized video is one, but like, hey, we could pay someone to be on this podcast. We could pay someone to come to lunch with us after this. We could pay to FaceTime or call, or you could imagine all of the different permutations. But we started with this video because our thinking was like, this is probably the easiest possible thing to broker,
takes
right?
30 seconds.
Like it takes 30 seconds. We don't have to match. Like it's asynchronous. So if George gets booked right now, but we're in the middle of this podcast, like he can do it anytime in the next few days after that. So it doesn't have to be immediate. There's no security issues of like, hey, what if he shows up at this person and they're crazy? So for a lot of reasons, this was just the thing that we thought would work as we were really focusing in. And originally we started just with pro athletes because ESPN had a documentary called Broke where they said that 85% of NFL players go broke 5 years after playing their last game. And as you know, we were all college athletes, like me, Devin, Martin, and you know, Devin and I went to Duke. Martin went to USC.
What position did you play?
I was a hockey goalie, but Martin was like on the USC football teams with like Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, like that era, and watched like people that were superstars end up not being able to. You know, they were high school parapros like a couple years later because they couldn't make money in college. Yeah. There was this mix between fame and monetization that I realized wasn't going to be fixed through the traditional process. Mm-hmm. And so for Cameo, it was always about how do we create this marketplace for people that are going to be famous, that are the most famous in the world. And then after they have their moment, like they can continue to monetize that from a direct-to-fan monetization perspective. And when you look at YouTube, the top 3% of creators make 97% of all the ad dollars on the platform. I have friends that have 10 million plus followers on YouTube that could not pay their rent with just the money they make on YouTube. You know, I saw Snoop Dogg talk at the Milliken conference.
You can definitely pay your bills with Cameo, by the way.
You can
definitely pay your bills.
So Snoop was on Cameo also.
Yeah, Snoop was an early investor in Cameo as well. But I remember like seeing him speak at the Milliken conference about the earnings on Spotify, and it's like, you know, he like it's a laughable little amount of money that people like.
Oh no, Spotify is insulting to artists, and the way the monetization goes there.
In sports, we talked about that, but then in the Screen Actors Guild, 99.9% of the Screen Actors Guild is unemployed at any given time.
Right.
And last year during the SAG strike, the data came out that 86% of SAG members in non-strike years didn't make enough money to qualify for their pension and healthcare benefits, which is $26,000 a year. It's less than minimum wage.
Is it safe to say that you guys are the platform that talent should be coming to because you're actually paying talent the most?
Well, not just that, but if you don't mind me interjecting here, I think from a talent perspective, I'll give my talent.
You are talent,
Not only that, but it also gives you the creative freedom. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but also it puts you in a position where you got to keep your game. You got to stay relevant. You have to stay within you can't let it fade off. So it's also a good motivational platform to be on because it motivates you because you're only going to eat what you kill.
Yeah.
It's not just going to fall on your lap. Right. So it's definitely 99% your effort, 1% essentially they facilitate a means to a way, but it's 99% your effort. So I think the difference between all of them and that separates Cameo is you are your employer. You need to know how to work and market yourself because my bookings spike based on virality. I go viral, my booking spike. I go viral, my booking spike. If I go quiet too long,
and what leads you
bookings.
to go viral is like interesting sometimes. So one of my favorite kind of December surprises that's ever happened with Cameo,
George Santos.
that you guys will probably remember. One of them was Smokey Robinson. Got booked, and he was wishing somebody happy Hanukkah, and he called it Chanukah.
I remember that.
This was like the biggest thing. So like, again, this was just a normal booking. He just said something. There were 2 separate episodes of SNL that year where like Smokey Robinson, Chanukah got talked about. Right? Another one that was like all time. I remember Mark McGrath on the day that Trump's first impeachment trial started. Mark McGrath got booked to break up with somebody's boyfriend for them. Like some girl like had him like give this long talk, like breaking up with the boyfriend. And he put out maybe my favorite Cameo tweet of all time. So he goes to bed. He takes a nap in the middle of the day. He wakes up and he's the #1 trending person in the world on Twitter above Trump on the day of Trump's first impeachment because this video goes so viral. And ultimately, like he sent this tweet out. He goes, took a nap, woke up, it was 1999 all over again, right? So the thing that's really cool about Cameo, the core value prop to talent, is you're getting paid to become more famous and more beloved. Because what happens is, like, if I buy you a George Cameo, like, you're going to share that with your group chat.
Absolutely.
You're going to put it on TikTok. And, like, all of a sudden, like, that's how people know he's there. And that's the flywheel. Like, to solve those problems we talked about before, whether it's music or creator world or athletes or actors, I deeply, deeply believe that the only way to solve this problem of like people are more famous than rich is to enable direct to fan monetization. Like you have to go to the fans. When you look at platforms like OnlyFans, for example, Patreon, it's all the same ethos of basically like your fans supporting your creative career.
Yeah.
Can we geek out for a second though? Because then for all the tech geeks, I mean, when you were talking about you and your boy just sitting there at Soho House, going through what's going to become Cameo.
Yeah.
What happens after that? Do you say, hey, we got to find somebody to build this app?
Basically, I fly to LA. We spend like a couple days jamming on it. I then fly back. I'm working at LinkedIn at the time. I fly back to Chicago, and like neither of us could like stop thinking about it. But Martin and I, neither of us are technical, so neither of us can code. So just like many of you guys listening, you've had an idea for an app or a website or something online. And, you know, obviously with AI now, like there's tools that exist that are more no code tools. But at that point, like it was just an idea. So I was very fortunate that I had a few good friends from college that I knew were really talented software engineers. The first one I called was Devin, who ended up becoming our co-founder. And Devin, very interestingly, was one of the initial stars on Vine, which was the social media platform that kind of predated TikTok. And he had over 1 billion loops on Vine, and he was never able to monetize that. So even though he was this big Vine creator, he still was like working as a software engineer during the day. And his best friend, a YouTuber named Cody Ko, Cody was, you know, had 4 billion loops on Vine and was like a top 100 person in the world on the platform. But also the two of them had never made any money doing it. So this problem was very, very acute to them. The thing that's so interesting is that when you have people at the company that are creators themselves, they just know that it feels right or doesn't feel right. And really like the feedback we got from the very beginning of the platform was like, whoa, this is so easy. It's so intuitive. One of the brilliant things that Devin did early, and one of the mistakes that people make often in like building your MVP, which is your minimum viable product. So like, what's the easiest version of of Cameo or whatever your idea is to get out of the world? For the first like 100 or 250 Cameos, something like that, we actually emailed the talent. We told them to record a video and email it back to us. We put a watermark on and we put it out there. And at that point, all we needed was just the front end for people to come in and book in. But we didn't spend all this time like building the rails of what it was going to be. Once that existed, we're like, hey, it would be good if the talent like got a notification on their phone in like a messaging platform, as opposed to like in their Gmail where you get 50 emails a day. The first version of Cameo, actually, after emailing people, was a request would come in, you'd get pinged on Facebook Messenger. It would say accept or decline. If you hit accept, a camera would open, you'd record it in the app, you'd send it through Facebook Messenger, and then we got it to the customer. We had done over 10,000 Cameos before we actually created our talent app. And this is something that
Which, by the way, thank you.
Yeah.
I would have totally bombed Cameo if it wasn't for the way it is today.
Well, and by the way,
my attention span and organizational skills.
The reason it worked so well was because we had learned so much. And I've met a lot of people over the years that had the idea for a Cameo, or they had tried to build one. Like one guy, like that's a really prominent founder, you know, him and some really high powered celebrities like actually tried this business like a few years before us. But they were building the perfect app for so long that we actually came along before on this MVP version, and then just like the attention got there, the network effect started building. Every individual person that comes on makes it more valuable for everybody. And part of that too is this is also something that's like pretty endemic of the platform. Like we didn't build Cameo for like Tom Brady or Taylor Swift. It's not that they wouldn't do great, or like, of course there'd be demand for them. But the problem for like a Taylor Swift right now is she would either have to price herself so much that it's like unattainable to people. And now she wants to do
limited drops
or she would do limited drops. But, you know, but then again, like she's taken down Ticketmaster, like, you know, if she's only selling 10 Cameos or something, like
she will break your app. Like, absolutely. So we're running out of time.
Yep.
So I want to do a rapid fire with you. So very short answers, real quick. All right. So did you ever have to kick a celebrity off of the platform?
Yes.
Who?
I forget his name. He was the cheerleader from, there was like a cheerleading documentary on Netflix. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I do.
I feel like I saw
I
that.
don't know the name, but I know what you're talking about. Was he on the platform?
He was on the
Jerry
platform.
Harris.
There you go.
12 years in federal prison.
Yeah, Jerry Harris was his name.
Yes.
Yeah,
So he had to go.
So Jerry was like huge on Cameo, and then these allegations come out, and then like he actually like deactivated himself at that point. But then once he got convicted, like then we took him off the platform.
Okay.
Gotcha. So, all right, continue on the rapid fire, and I'll let you do your.
Okay. Let me
That
think
wasn't
of
a very
something.
rapid fire.
Well, let's stick to it. How much drama did George Santos joining Cameo cause your PR team? Because that's a question I've always wanted to ask.
So
Because there was drama, I can only imagine.
look, the thing that's exciting about our business is like
Every press is
that's
good
what
press.
that's what it's all about. Like when these moments happen, and by the way, I am the PR team, so like that, I'm the person dealing with all of
I
that.
saw a ton of comments of
personally.
yours. Yeah.
I'm the person dealing with that. It is like I always say that Cameo does not make pop culture; it's a reflection of it.
Yep.
So when we get those eyeballs or those controversies that come on, it's because that's what's in the zeitgeist and that's what's relevant. And in a consumer business, you got to do that. And I will say that the conversations that we had, the many of those weeks, they were fun. It's exhilarating.
Yep.
That's why I love what I do.
What was the most expensive Cameo ever booked?
Floyd Mayweather's, historically been like 10 grand.
Gotcha.
Okay, rapid fire. Why do they call you the mayor?
That nickname I've had since kindergarten.
Why?
Why? I just have always been like somebody that knows everybody,
The
connects
organizer
people.
kind of.
You're the boss.
Like
You're the man that moves around.
like just was a
Move
nickname
to New
from
York and run for
kindergarten.
mayor,
Okay,
please.
so from Kim, so it's a family name, kind of, sort of.
It was my best friend's dad.
Who are the people that you would sit down at and have a great lunch with? Anybody in the world, dead or alive?
I already had lunch with him, so he doesn't need to
Dead
say
or
much.
alive?
Jeff Bezos is another one. Like I've met him a couple times, but I'm such a fan of like his management style. And specifically his like leadership principles, and take a look at those if you've never seen them. Like they're kind of Amazon's core values.
Yeah.
Like he's somebody that I really admire.
Okay, one more person, dead or alive.
Yeah, I think Oprah I've never met, and I would love to meet Oprah. I think
Okay.
she'd be
That's
fascinating.
dope.
So look, this is the last thing we do on the show.
Yeah.
You have to tell us, and I didn't prep you because I really wanted to be authentic. You have to tell us 2 truths and a lie, and we're gonna have to figure out which is a lie. Bring it on. Be outrageous with it. Have fun.
Okay, I'm thinking about my treats first, and then I'm gonna get my lie.
Yeah.
All right. So number 1, I've been to jail in Africa. 2, I've never had Taco Bell. And 3, I got hit by a machete on my arm.
Damn.
Okay, so I've never had Taco Bell. True story. Never. 36 years old, no interest whatsoever. I'm going to believe you've never had Taco Bell. So, because I can relate to that,
He's from Chicago. They have,
you've probably been to jail in Africa.
but it's a huge continent.
And
with
that's not a
50
machete scar. So I think you did not get hit by a machete.
You got it. I'm a bad liar, I guess.
I didn't get a chance to guess.
Because you were going to get it wrong
I
anyway.
know, I
You were
was.
going to believe the scar.
I was gonna get
You
it
were
wrong.
going to believe the scar.
This is a football
a
injury.
machete.
It was a screw loose on a guy's helmet. I was playing fullback and I blocked him and it ripped my arm open. Never got stitches.
But
Those are pretty good, right?
Yeah, those are great. Before you go, why were you in a jail cell in Africa?
What country in Africa?
I was in Namibia, and it was actually a big misunderstanding.
It's
But
always a misunderstanding.
We got 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a history major. There's a very famous antique shop in Swakopmund, Namibia called Peter's Antiques. When I got there, I saw these really cool baseball hats that said Namibian police on them. They were 5 Namib, so they were like 30 cents. It was like nothing, super cheap.
You stole the
So
damn
me,
hat,
no,
didn't
me
you?
and my buddy buy these hats, and we went all around. We're driving go-karts, we went skydiving.
You're wearing the
ATV.
hats.
We're just having this like awesome day, and we head back up to the boat at like 2 a.m. after like a long night out, and like 5 armed guards with AK-47s follow us up on the boat. I'm on semester at sea, college studying abroad, and they literally demanded that me and my friend Jack like come in for questioning. And by the way, we have no idea at this point.
What did you do? You're like,
what
what
we
do we
did.
Were you wearing the hats impersonating officers all
So
day
we
long?
were not impersonating officers, but on semester at sea in 2008 when we went, there was no internet on the boat. So basically Blood Diamond was showing the whole time. So we were speaking in Rhodesian accents and we just thought that was funny. So we end up the next morning having to go to jail in Swakopmund, Namibia, and explain like why we weren't impersonating officers and say like we literally bought these hats at this place.
Did they make
and
you pay?
And what we didn't know was there was a big scandal going on where these cops kept saying their equipment was lost. So they were selling the hats to the antique store. They wouldn't let us back on the boat until we like signed this document saying we will come back for the trial. And
Should
go back for trial?
I'm coming back.
I know, it's like I don't think I ever got contacted, but I'm not sure if I can go back.
You better
to
not
Namibia
go back to
I
Namibia.
would definitely not go back. But anyway,
Beautiful country though, so I hope you guys visit. if you've never been.
don't go back.
But that was my African jail story.
Stephen, this has been absolutely fantastic. And I want to say thank you for stopping by Pants on Fire with George Santos and with my lovely co-host, Naja Hall.
A pleasure.
And we had so much fun getting to know you, getting to know a lot more about Cameo. And for everyone listening, book George Santos cameos.
This is great, and really have appreciated getting to know you, and great to meet you as well. And I'm really looking forward to this. I think you're gonna do great on this podcast.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Stephen.
Awesome.
That was really good. Actually.
That was fun.
I find him likable. His success. I'm glad he got a chance to really talk and teach. I felt like there was a lot of teachable moments. He dropped a bunch of gems on there.
Oh, his grandma was a big part of this, right? Her funeral, right? Can you imagine? Grandma passes and you're
And this new idea is born.
Business idea.
You're gonna cuss me out, but when you said the beaver puss noise that's still I'm not gonna say it. But can you just say it one more time?
Oh, you want to trigger me, right? No, I'm not going to say it. You say it. Why don't you say it?
No, because it
Say
triggers
it.
you.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Kif.
No, it's yif, yif, yif.
You see?
Whatever. It's so annoying. You know what, Naja? We got through our very first episode
This
of
was
Pants
it.
on Fire.
We did it, and nobody's on fire, especially your pants.
Not yet. There's a whole hell of a lot more coming through us, right? Thank you to Stephen for being our very first guest on the podcast. And hey, see you next week. And keep y'all guessing for who's next on Pants on Fire. Bye.
Light your pants on fire.